The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the flight line at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, turning the concrete into a shimmering sea of heat waves. Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a dark smear of hydraulic fluid across her skin. She didn't care. In the 3 years since she'd become an aircraft armament specialist, she'd learned that staying clean on this job was impossible, and vanity was a luxury she'd abandoned long ago. The A-10 Thunderbolt II loomed above her like a mechanical guardian angel, its distinctive twin engines and straight wings casting precious shade across her workspace. This particular warthog, tail number 80147, had been giving her maintenance crew headaches all week. The GAU-8 Avenger cannon, that beautiful 7-barrel beast capable of firing 3,900 rounds per minute, kept jamming during test fires. It was Maya's job to figure out why. She loved these aircraft. There was something honest about the A-10, something that matched her own approach to life now. It wasn't sleek or pretty like an F-16. It was built for one purpose, to protect troops on the ground no matter the cost. It could take a beating and keep flying. Maya understood that kind of resilience intimately. "Rodriguez, you got that feed chute sorted yet?" Senior Airman Jackson called from the maintenance truck, his voice carrying across the flight line. "Almost," Maya shouted back, her voice muffled as she crouched beneath the aircraft's nose, peering up into the cannon system's intricate mechanical guts. "I think there's a misalignment in the ammo drum. Give me 10 more minutes." She reached up with her torque wrench, stretching to access a bolt that seemed specifically designed to be just out of comfortable reach. Aircraft designers, she decided long ago, must have a sadistic streak. Her flight suit sleeve rode up her right forearm as she extended her arm fully, straining against the confined space. The tattoo emerged from beneath the olive-drab fabric, like a secret escaping captivity. It was intricate, clearly expensive work. A compass rose done in black and gray ink, with coordinates running along the bottom in precise military notation. Woven through the design were words in flowing Pashto script. Most people who saw it assumed it was just another service member's deployment memorial, common enough in the military. They never asked what it meant. Maya preferred it that way. She was so focused on the stubborn bolt that she didn't hear the footsteps approaching, didn't notice the shadow falling across her workspace until a voice, sharp and commanding, cut through her concentration. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez." Maya's wrench slipped, clanging against the metal housing. Her heart lurched. She knew that voice, everyone on base knew that voice. Colonel James Hartley, the wing commander who'd arrived at Davis-Monthan just 3 weeks ago. A man whose career included tour in Iraq, Afghanistan, and assignments so classified they appeared on his service record as simple blank spaces. Maya pulled her arm back quickly, but she knew it was too late. As she backed out from under the aircraft and straightened to attention, she saw Hartley's face. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes told a different story. They were locked on her forearm, on the tattoo that was now partially visible beneath her rolled sleeve. "Sir," Maya snapped to attention, her mind racing. In 3 years at this base, she'd never been singled out by anyone above her flight chief. She kept her head down, did her job well, and avoided attention. That was the whole point of being here. "My office, now." Hartley's voice was controlled, but Maya heard something underneath it. Not anger, something else. Something that made her blood run cold. "Recognition." "Sir, I'm in the middle of a critical repair." "Senior Airman Jackson can finish it." Hartley's eyes hadn't moved from her arm. "This can't wait." The walk across the flight line felt like a march to execution. Other maintainers paused in their work to watch the wing commander personally escorting one of their own away from the aircraft. Maya could feel their stares burning into her back. Her mind spun through possibilities. Had someone from her past life found her? Had the CIA's carefully constructed cover story finally unraveled? But no, if this were an official investigation, they would have sent OSI, the Air Force's investigative service. They wouldn't send the wing commander himself. This was something else, something personal. Hartley walked beside her in silence, his jaw clenched tight. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with gray creeping into his closely cropped hair. His uniform was immaculate despite the heat, rows of ribbons speaking to a career spent in some of the military's darkest corners. Maya noticed he wore a combat action medal and a bronze star with V device for valor. This wasn't some desk officer. This was a man who'd seen real combat. They reached the headquarters building, the blessed air conditioning hitting Maya's sweat-soaked uniform like a wall of ice. Hartley's office was on the second-floor corner position, with windows overlooking the flight line. He opened the door and gestured for her to enter. "Close the door," he said quietly. Maya did, her hand trembling slightly as she pulled it shut. The click of the latch sounded impossibly loud in the sudden silence. Hartley moved behind his desk but didn't sit. Instead, he stood there, hands braced on the polished wood, staring at her with an intensity that made her want to run. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Coast Province. Grid coordinates 3,342 degrees north, 69, 9,372 degrees east. August 2013. The room tilted. Those exact numbers were etched into her skin. The precise location where 2 Delta Force operators had died in a hail of bullets, covering her escape from a compromised infiltration mission. A mission so classified that officially it had never happened. A mission that had cost her everything, her career, her identity, her peace of mind. Maya's carefully constructed world, the quiet life she'd spent 6 years building, shattered in the space between heartbeats. Her legs weakened, and she gripped the back of the chair in front of her for support. "How?" she started, but her voice failed. Hartley's expression shifted, something like pain crossing his features. "I was there, Rodriguez, or should I say I was there when they called you by your other name." He paused, his voice dropping even lower. "I was there, Miriam." The name she hadn't heard spoken aloud in 6 years hit her like a physical blow. Miriam, the ghost she tried to bury, the woman who'd walked into a Taliban stronghold and emerged covered in blood that wasn't her own. Her past had just walked through the door and it wore a colonel's eagles. Maya's knees buckled. She caught herself on the chair, gripping the leather so hard her knuckles went white. The name echoed in her skull like a gunshot in an empty room. Miriam. 6 years of therapy, medication, sleepless nights, and carefully constructed lies, all obliterated by a single word. "Sit down before you fall down," Hartley said, his tone shifting from commanding officer to something almost gentle. He moved around the desk and guided her into the chair. "I'm sorry. I should have eased into this, but when I saw that tattoo..." Maya's vision swam. She forced herself to breathe, a technique Dr. Patterson, her therapist, had taught her. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. But the breathing exercises couldn't stop the memories flooding back. The smell of diesel fuel and flatbread, the weight of the burqa restricting her movements, the faces of women who'd welcomed her into their homes, never knowing she was there to destroy their lives. "How did you know?" Maya's voice came out raspy, foreign to her own ears. "The CIA told me the operation was sealed, that everyone involved signed NDAs that would put us in Leavenworth if we ever talked." Hartley walked to his window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the flight line where A-10 sat in neat rows. "I was the Air Force liaison officer embedded with the CIA paramilitary team, Captain Hartley back then." He turned to face her. "I was in the Tactical Operations Center when you made your first radio check-in from inside the village. I listened to every transmission for 8 weeks. Your voice became familiar." Maya's mind raced backward through time to that sweltering operations center in a compound outside Kabul. She'd never seen most of the people monitoring her mission. They were just voices in her earpiece, call signs without faces. Checkmate 6, Raven 2, Overwatch 1. She'd been Sierra 7, though the locals knew her as Miriam, a widow displaced from Helmand Province. You were checkmate 6, Maya whispered, the memory surfacing like something dredged from deep water. I was. Hartley opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a file folder stamped with classification markings so restricted Maya hadn't seen there like in years. Top secret SCINOFORN, special compartmented information, no foreign nationals. He laid it on the desk between them. I've been carrying this file since 2013, moving it from assignment to assignment. Waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting to find out what happened to you. His finger traced the edge of the folder. The operation was shut down so fast, so completely, that I never got answers. One day you were transmitting intelligence about Khalid Mansur's bomb-making operation. The next day the entire mission was black-filed, burned. I was told the asset, you had been killed during extraction. Maya's hand unconsciously moved to her right shoulder, where a puckered scar hid beneath her flight suit. I almost was. Hartley opened the file and Maya saw herself staring back, a photograph she'd never known existed. She looked impossibly young, 26 years old, standing in a staging area wearing local dress. Her eyes in that photo held something she'd lost: certainty, purpose, the conviction that what she was doing mattered. "Tell me what happened," Hartley said softly. "I've read the sanitized after-action report, but I want to hear it from you. I need to understand how Miriam became Maya Rodriguez, aircraft maintainer." Maya closed her eyes. She'd told this story to exactly 3 people: her CIA handler during the debriefing, Dr. Patterson during therapy, and the review board that had decided her fate. Each telling had cost her something. But looking at Hartley's face, seeing the genuine need for understanding there, she found herself speaking. "The mission was solid for 7 weeks, she began, her voice distant, clinical, the same tone she'd used in the debriefing. "I'd embedded in the village of Dri Nashta, about 15 kilometers from the Pakistani border. My cover was simple: a widow whose husband had been killed by an American airstrike. The irony wasn't lost on me." She paused, remembering the women who'd taken her in. Fatima, who'd shared her bread. Zara, who'd taught her to make the local style of tea. Good women trapped in a bad situation, living under Taliban control because they had no choice. Mansur used the village as a waypoint. His fighters would rotate through, rest, get supplies. The women weren't allowed to speak to them, which made my job easier. I documented everything: faces, weapons, routes, timetables. I planted tracking devices in equipment. I photographed documents left in the mosque. For 7 weeks I was the perfect intelligence asset. "What changed?" Hartley asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. Week 8, a Taliban commander arrived, a man named Rashid. He'd been in Pakistan when I first infiltrated, but he'd grown up in that village. He knew every family, every face. Maya's hands clenched. He knew there had never been a widow named Miriam from Helmand province. The room felt too small, the air too thin. Maya could see it all again with perfect clarity: Rashid's suspicious eyes following her, the whispered conversations that stopped when she approached, the way his hand had moved to his weapon when she'd passed him in the street. I transmitted a priority alert: cover compromised, requested immediate extraction. She looked at Hartley. "You were there, you heard it." "I did. I authorized the extraction myself. Sent in the alert team Delta operators Webb and Chen with a Ranger quick reaction force as backup. They were wheels up in 20 minutes. Hartley's jaw tightened. "That's where the official record ends. The file says you were extracted under fire and transported to Bagram for medical treatment. Then, nothing. You vanish from all records." "The official record is a lie," Maya said flatly, "or at least incomplete." She stood, needing to move, unable to sit still as the memories clawed their way to the surface. She pulled up her right sleeve completely, revealing the full tattoo. The compass rose, the coordinates, and there in flowing Pashto script 2 names: Marcus and Robert. "Sergeant First Class Marcus Webb and Master Sergeant Robert Chen," she said, her voice breaking. They came for me in 2 Humvees, driving straight into that village like they owned it. Mansur's fighters were waiting. Someone had tipped them off, probably Rashid. It was an ambush. She could still hear the RPG explosion, see the first Humvee flip onto its side in a gout of flame and smoke. The staccato crack of AK-47 fire. Webb had pulled her from the house where she'd been hiding, practically throwing her into the second vehicle. Chen had laid down covering fire, his M4 carbine barking in controlled bursts. They got me to the extraction point, a clearing 2 clicks outside the village. The helicopter was coming in when Mansur's fighters hit us again. Chen took a round through the neck. Webb, she paused, steadying herself. Webb used his body to shield me when they threw grenades. He saved my life and died doing it. The silence that followed was heavy, sacred. Hartley's face had gone pale. The mission's intelligence led to the disruption of a major attack on Kabul, Maya continued, her voice hollow. 23 Taliban fighters were killed in follow-up operations. Mansur escaped across the border into Pakistan, and she laughed bitterly. I came home broken. PTSD, survivor's guilt, recurring nightmares. The CIA offered me a medical retirement, a new identity, and a promise. Forget Mariam ever existed. So you became an aircraft maintainer. So I became invisible, Maya corrected. I changed my name, moved to Arizona, and found the most ordinary, anonymous job I could. I fix machines. They don't talk back. They don't die for me. She met Hartley's eyes. I got the tattoo a year later when I could finally hold still long enough. Those coordinates, that's where Webb and Chen fell. The place where Mariam died and Maya was born. Hartley closed the file slowly, reverently. When he looked up, his expression had changed. The recognition was still there, but now it was joined by something else. Something that made Maya's instincts scream danger. Maya, he said quietly, I need to tell you why I really brought you here, why I've been looking for you. He pulled out another file, this one marked with yesterday's date. Khalid Mansur is alive, and he's planning something that makes 2013 look like a rehearsal. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. That's impossible. The CIA tracked Mansur to a compound in North Waziristan. A drone strike in 2015. Killed his brother, Hartley interrupted, sliding the new file across the desk. Yasser Mansur, who'd taken over the network after Khalid went underground. The CIA assumed they'd gotten the right target. They were wrong. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the file. The first image made her stomach drop. It was a surveillance photo, grainy but clear enough. A man in his 50s, beard gone gray, standing outside a madrasa in Quetta, Pakistan. His face was etched in her memory like acid on glass. The same angular features, the scar running from his left eye to his jawline, a souvenir from a Russian bomb in the 1980s. This was taken 3 months ago, Hartley said. NSA intercepted communications that led to this. Once we knew to look for him, the pieces started falling into place. Khalid Mansur didn't die. He disappeared, let his brother run the network while he did something much more dangerous. What? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. He learned, adapted, evolved. Hartley pulled out more photos, technical diagrams, chemical formulas, supply chain manifests. The Khalid Mansur you knew in 2013 was a talented bomb maker working with basic materials. Ammonium nitrate, diesel fuel, salvaged artillery shells. Dangerous but limited in scope. He laid out a series of intercepted documents, some in Pashto, others in Arabic. Maya's eyes, trained years ago to parse intelligence reports, began scanning automatically. What she saw made her chest tighten. He spent 6 years studying, Hartley continued. Not just bomb making, engineering, chemistry, logistics, operational security. He's recruited former Iraqi Republican Guard officers, Chechen fighters with advanced training, even a Malaysian chemist who worked on industrial explosives. He's built something new, something unprecedented. Maya found a page with sketches that looked like technical blueprints. Her breath caught. These are shaped charges, military-grade precision work. Correct, and look at the targeting package. She turned the page and felt her world tilt. Satellite imagery of 3 buildings: the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad, the British High Commission in New Delhi, and the French Embassy in Kabul. Each image was annotated with structural weak points, security patrol schedules, and estimated casualty figures written in neat Pashto script. Simultaneous attacks, Maya breathed. He's planning simultaneous attacks on 3 embassies. Not just attacks, coordinated demolitions designed to cause maximum casualties. Intelligence estimates put potential deaths in the thousands when you factor in local staff, visitors, and surrounding buildings. Think Oklahoma City bombing times 3, all happening within minutes of each other. Maya's training kicked in, her mind automatically analyzing the operational complexity. The coordination alone would require years of planning, multiple cells, secure communications, material acquisition across borders. She looked up sharply. When? We don't know exactly. Intercepts suggest sometime in the next 4 to 6 months. Mansur's been careful, paranoid even. He uses couriers instead of phones, changes locations constantly, and trusts almost no one. Hartley paused. Almost no one. He pulled out another photo. This time it showed a group of women in burqas entering a compound. The image was taken from a distance, slightly blurred. This compound in Quetta is where Mansur operates from. He moves between safe houses, but this is his base. And here's the problem. It's in Pakistan, in a city where the ISI, Pakistani intelligence, has deep connections to Taliban-aligned groups. We can't just send in Delta Force or launch a drone strike without creating a diplomatic catastrophe. Pakistan would see it as a violation of sovereignty. Maya's stomach churned. She knew where this was going. The compound is heavily guarded. Male guards, electronic surveillance, the works. But there's one area where security is lighter. Hartley tapped the photo of the women. Mansur allows local women to enter twice a week to cook and clean. It's one of his few remaining connections to normal life, a pattern he's maintained since 2013. You want to infiltrate someone into his household staff, Maya said flatly. Not just someone. We need someone who speaks Pashto like a native, someone who understands the culture, the social dynamics, the religious customs, someone who's already proven they can embed in a hostile environment and survive. Hartley's eyes locked onto hers. We need Miriam. No, the word came out harsh, immediate. Maya stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Absolutely not. I'm not that person anymore, Colonel. I can't be that person. Maya, you don't understand. Her voice rose, months of carefully controlled emotion cracking through. I spent 8 weeks living a lie in 2013, and it nearly destroyed me. Do you know what it's like to befriend women, to share their food, to pray beside them, knowing you're going to bring death to their doorstep? Do you know what it feels like to be the reason good people die? Those women in Dri Nashta weren't good people, Hartley said quietly. They were victims of the Taliban, yes, but they also provided material support to terrorists, some of them willingly. Some of them were teenagers, girls with no choice. Maya's fists clenched. I told myself the same thing back then. I justified it, rationalized it, said I was saving lives. But at night I still see Fatima's face. She was 19 years old, Colonel. She shared her bread with me, taught me how to make proper naan. When the attack came, she was in the house next to mine. I heard her screaming. The room fell silent except for Maya's ragged breathing. Hartley waited, letting her emotion crest and fall. I came home from that mission and couldn't sleep for 18 months without medication, Maya continued, her voice dropping to something raw and broken. I couldn't be around crowds. Loud noises made me dive for cover. I had a complete psychological breakdown at the DIA headquarters when someone spoke Pashto in the cafeteria. They had to sedate me. She pulled up her sleeve again, showing the tattoo with shaking hands. This isn't just memorial art, Colonel. This is my daily reminder of the cost. Webb and Chen died because of intelligence I gathered, because I was there. Their kids, did you know Webb had a daughter, Emily? She was 6 years old when he died. Chen's son was 8. Those children grew up without fathers because of me. They grew up without fathers because of Khalid Mansur, Hartley corrected gently. Because of men who build bombs to murder civilians. You gave those operators the intelligence they needed. You did your job. My job, Maya laughed bitterly. My job cost me everything. I lost my career, my identity, my peace of mind. I spent 3 years in therapy learning how to function again. I met someone, David, and I'm planning a wedding next spring. A normal life, Colonel. I finally have a normal life. Hartley stood, moving around the desk to face her directly. His expression was sympathetic but unyielding. And how many normal lives will Mansur destroy if we don't stop him? How many Emilys and Chens will lose their parents when those embassies come down? That's not fair. No, it's not. Nothing about this is fair. He gestured to the files spread across his desk. We've been searching for you for 3 months, Maya. The CIA has been combing through records, trying to find Miriam. They didn't know you changed your name, that you'd left intelligence work entirely. When I arrived at this base and started reviewing personnel files, something about your record didn't add up. Gaps in your timeline, a previous career field listing that was redacted, a medical discharge that didn't match your current service. He picked up her personnel file, much thinner than the classified folders, but still significant. I started digging, called in favors, finally reached someone at the CIA who'd admit the operation in Coast Province had happened, who could confirm that the asset codenamed Sierra 7 was still alive. They gave me just enough information to identify you. He set the file down. And then I spent 3 weeks working up the courage to approach you, because I knew what I was about to ask would destroy the life you'd built. Maya felt tears burning at the corners of her eyes. She refused to let them fall. You're the only one who can do this, Hartley said softly. You're the only one who's already breached Mansur's inner circle and lived. You know his patterns, his psychology, and most importantly, he thinks you're dead. You're the ghost he'll never see coming. I can't, Maya whispered. I can't go back to being her. Hartley pulled out one final photo. This one showed a young girl, maybe 7 years old, laughing as she climbed on playground equipment. This is Amira. She's a local Afghan employee's daughter who plays in the courtyard of the Kabul embassy every day after school while her mother finishes work. He set the photo down gently. If Mansur succeeds, she'll be in that building when it comes down. Maya stared at the photo, seeing Emily Webb's face, seeing the children she'd never have if she died on this mission, seeing every innocent life hanging in the balance. How long do I have to decide? She asked, her voice hollow. 72 hours, Hartley replied. After that, we'll have to pursue other options, less effective options. Maya picked up the photo of Amira, her hand steadier now, her mind already beginning to calculate angles, risks, probabilities. The part of her she tried to bury, the analyst, the operative, the woman who'd walked into hell and emerged covered in ash, was stirring again. I need to talk to my fiancé, she said finally. Of course. Hartley handed her a card with a secure phone number. Call me when you've made your decision. Whatever you choose, this conversation never happened. Officially, you're still just an aircraft maintainer who got called to the wing commander's office about a uniform violation. Maya nodded numbly and walked toward the door. As her hand touched the handle, Hartley spoke once more. Maya, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Sorry for what happened in 2013. Sorry for what I'm asking now. But I'm not sorry for believing you're the only one who can save those lives. She left without responding, stepping back into the Arizona heat that suddenly felt cold against her skin. Miriam was waking up whether Maya wanted her to or not. Maya didn't remember the drive home. One moment she was leaving Hartley's office, the next she was sitting in her apartment parking lot, engine off, staring at nothing. Her phone showed 6:47 p.m. She'd lost 3 hours somewhere between the base and here. The gaps in her memory terrified her. It was happening again, the dissociation Dr. Patterson had warned her about. She forced herself to breathe, to ground herself in the present. The steering wheel was hot under her palms. A neighbor's dog barked in the distance. A sprinkler system hissed to life, fighting the eternal battle against the desert. These were real things, present things. She wasn't in Afghanistan. She wasn't Miriam, not yet. The apartment she shared with David was on the second floor of a modest complex near the base. They'd moved in together 8 months ago, a step that had terrified Maya more than she'd admitted. Letting someone into her space, her life, her carefully controlled world, it had felt like defusing a bomb blindfolded. But David had been patient, gentle, understanding when she woke up screaming, when certain sounds made her freeze, when she couldn't explain the scars that marked her body. He was home. She could see the living room lights on, could imagine him on the couch with his laptop, probably reviewing CAD designs for the contractor job he worked. David was an engineer for a defense contractor, designing aircraft components. They'd met at a base function 2 years ago, and he'd approached her with the worst pickup line she'd ever heard. "You look like someone who appreciates good riveting technique." She'd laughed, actually laughed. It had been the first genuine laugh she'd had in years. Maya climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling like walking toward an execution. Her hand shook as she unlocked the door. "Hey babe," David's voice called from the kitchen. "You're late. I was about to send out a search party. I made that pasta thing you like, the one with the sun-dried tomatoes," and he appeared in the kitchen doorway, drying his hands on a towel, and stopped mid-sentence. "Maya, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." She had her own ghost, and it was demanding she become it again. "We need to talk," Maya said, her voice mechanical. She walked past him into the living room and sat down on the couch, her movements stiff, controlled. "About something I should have told you a long time ago." David's face shifted from concern to something deeper, fear, perhaps, or the instinctive recognition that whatever came next would change everything. He sat beside her, close but not touching, giving her space. "Okay," he said quietly, "I'm listening." And Maya told him everything. The words came out in a flood, 3 years of carefully guarded secrets spilling into the space between them. She told him about her real career with the Defense Intelligence Agency, about the recruitment for the CIA operation, about becoming Miriam and living in a Taliban village for 8 weeks, about Fatima and Zara and the other women whose trust she'd betrayed, about the ambush, the extraction, Webb and Chen dying in the dust while she lived, about the breakdown, the therapy, the decision to disappear into a new life. David listened without interrupting, his face growing paler with each revelation. When she finished, silence filled the apartment like water filling a sinking ship. 3 years, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've been together for 2 years, lived together for 8 months, and you've been lying to me the entire time." "I wasn't lying. You told me you were a dental technician before you retrained. You said you left because of a medical issue." David stood, running his hands through his hair. "Jesus, Maya, or should I call you Miriam? Is Maya even your real name?" "It is now," she said quietly. "Legally, officially, Miriam died in Afghanistan." "Except she didn't, did she?" David's anger was building, not hot but cold, the kind that cuts deeper. "Because your wing commander showed up today to resurrect her. That's what this is about, isn't it? That's why you look like you're going to shatter into pieces." Maya's throat tightened. "They want me to go back, one more mission. Mansour, the bomb maker I was tracking in 2013, he's alive. He's planning attacks on 3 embassies. Thousands of people could die. So they want you to risk your life again, to become someone else again, to go back to the place that nearly killed you." David's laugh was bitter. "And let me guess, you're actually considering it." "I don't know," Maya stood, facing him. "I don't know what I'm considering. I came straight home to talk to you because I need you to help me think clearly." "Think clearly? Maya, you have PTSD. You still have nightmares. Last month you had a panic attack in the grocery store because someone was speaking Arabic near us. You're in therapy, on medication, and you've spent years rebuilding your mental health." David's voice cracked. "How is there even a question here?" "Because people will die if I don't go. People died the last time you went. Good people, people with families." He gestured to her arm, to the tattoo hidden beneath her sleeve. "You carry those deaths with you every single day. How many more names are you planning to add to your skin?" The words hit like physical blows. Maya sank back onto the couch, her head in her hands. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." David knelt in front of her, his anger giving way to desperation. "Make me understand why you would even consider throwing away everything we've built. We're getting married in 4 months, Maya. 4 months. We've picked out invitations. Your dress is being altered. My parents are flying in from Ohio. I know. We were going to start trying for a family next year. You told me you wanted that. You said you wanted normal, wanted peace, wanted to leave the war behind." His hands gripped hers. "Was that a lie too?" "No," Maya whispered, tears finally breaking free. "I meant every word. I want that life, David. I want to marry you. I want to have Sunday morning pancakes and arguments about whose turn it is to take out the trash. I want boring and normal and safe." "Then say no. Tell them you're done. Tell them to find someone else." "There is no one else." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "I'm the only one who's infiltrated Mansur's network. The only one who speaks the language well enough, who understands the culture, who knows his patterns. They've been searching for months, and I'm their only viable option." David released her hands and stood, walking to the window. Outside, the Arizona sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, beautiful and indifferent to human suffering. "What if you don't come back?" he asked, his voice hollow. "What if I'm standing at Arlington again, watching them fold a flag? What if our children grow up asking about the mother they never knew?" "The mission parameters." "Don't quote mission parameters at me." David spun around and Maya saw tears on his face. "This isn't a briefing. This is our life, our future, and you're talking about it like it's some kind of tactical problem to solve." Maya stood, closing the distance between them. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "If I don't go and those embassies come down, I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I could have stopped it. I'll see those faces in my nightmares instead of Fatima's. And that guilt, David, that guilt will destroy me just as surely as going back might." "So I lose you either way," he said softly. The truth of it hung between them, undeniable and cruel. Maya pulled him close, feeling his heart beating against hers, memorizing the moment because she knew with cold certainty, what her decision would be. "I haven't said yes yet," she whispered against his shoulder. "I have 72 hours to decide." But they both knew she was lying. The decision had been made the moment she'd seen Amira's photo, the laughing girl who didn't know death was being planned for her. The decision had been made when Webb and Chen had died for her, their sacrifice demanding meaning, demanding that she become someone worthy of surviving. David held her tighter, as if he could physically prevent her from slipping away. Outside, the sun finished setting, and darkness claimed the desert. In the morning, Maya would call Hartley. But tonight, she let herself pretend that normal was still possible, that Miriam could stay buried, that love could be enough to anchor her to a life that was never truly hers to keep. The pasta David had made grew cold on the stove, forgotten. They stayed locked together in the darkening room, two people clinging to a future that was already becoming past tense, already being sacrificed on the altar of duty and impossible choices. Somewhere in Pakistan, Khalid Mansur was building bombs. Somewhere in America, Emily Webb was growing up without a father. And somewhere in the space between Maya Rodriguez and the ghost called Miriam, a decision that would cost everything was being made in silence and tears. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight, counting down the hours until pretending became impossible. Maya returned to work the next morning as if nothing had happened. She clocked in at 600, grabbed her tool bag, and reported to the flight line where 80147 was still waiting for repairs. Senior Airman Jackson gave her a questioning look. Everyone on the crew had seen her escorted away by the wing commander, but Maya's expression shut down any questions before they could form. She threw herself into the work with desperate intensity. The A-10's cannon became her entire world. She disassembled the feed mechanism, inspected every component, measured tolerances to the thousandth of an inch. Physical work, concrete problems with clear solutions. This was real. This was now. This was the life she'd chosen. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Rodriguez, you okay?" Jackson asked around noon, watching her fumble a wrench for the third time. "You've been staring at that same bolt for 10 minutes. "I'm fine," Maya lied. "Just tired, didn't sleep well." That was the understatement of the year. She hadn't slept at all. After David had finally gone to bed around 2 a.m., emotionally exhausted, Maya had stayed on the couch, staring at her phone. The card with Hartley's number sat on the coffee table like a loaded weapon. 48 hours left to decide. 48 hours to choose between the life she'd built and the life that was demanding she return. The nightmares had started again. Just the anticipation of going back had been enough to crack open the door she'd sealed shut. Even lying awake, she could smell it. Diesel fuel, dust, the particular scent of bread baking in a tandoor oven. She could hear Fatima's voice teaching her proper Pashto pronunciation. Could feel the weight of the burqa restricting her movements. At 1400 hours, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "New intel, need to brief you. Can you come by at 1700? JH." Maya's stomach dropped. She shouldn't go. Going meant engaging further, meant making the decision harder, but she found herself texting back, "I'll be there." Hartley's office felt smaller the second time. Or maybe Maya just felt more trapped. He had new files spread across his desk, images that made her blood run cold. "This came in overnight," Hartley said without preamble. "NSA intercepted a phone call between Mansur and one of his cell leaders in Kabul. They're moving up the timeline." "How far up?" 3 months, maybe less. He showed her a transcript, portions highlighted in yellow. "They're in final preparation stages. The shaped charges are ready. The operatives are in place. They're just waiting for final authorization from Mansur." Maya scanned the document, her training automatically parsing the intelligence. He's being cautious, waiting for something, a specific date, maybe, or a trigger event. "Exactly, which gives us a narrow window." Hartley pulled out surveillance photos. "We've confirmed Mansur is at the Quetta compound. He's been there for 6 weeks, unusual for him. Our analysts think he's coordinating the final details personally, too paranoid to trust communications." The photos showed the compound from multiple angles. High walls, armed guards, electronic surveillance. And there, a group of women in burqas entering through a side gate. "The household staff rotates every 2 weeks, Hartley explained. "New women come in, work for 14 days, then leave. It's a security measure, prevents anyone from gathering too much intelligence. But it also means there's regular turnover, regular opportunities for insertion." Maya's tactical mind was already working, calculating angles despite herself. "How would I get into the rotation?" Hartley's expression shifted, hope mixed with something like guilt. "We have an asset in Quetta, a woman who runs a domestic employment service. She provides workers to various households, including Mansur's. She's agreed to insert you into the next rotation, which starts in 4 weeks. 4 weeks, Maya repeated. That's not much time for preparation. No, it's not. You'd need to be ready to deploy in 3 weeks for pre-mission staging in Kabul. He paused. Maya, I want to be clear. This is voluntary. If you say no, we'll find another way. It might not be as effective, might not save as many lives, but we'll find something. Stop, Maya said quietly. Stop trying to make this easier. We both know there is no other way. You wouldn't be here showing me this if there was a viable alternative. Hartley had the decency to look ashamed. You're right, I'm sorry. Maya stood, walking to the window. On the flight line below, A-10s were conducting engine runs, their powerful turbofans creating heat shimmer in the afternoon sun. Honest machines doing honest work. She belonged down there, not in this office discussing infiltration operations. I need to show you something else, Hartley said softly. He pulled out a folder she recognized, the casualty reports from the 2013 operation. Webb and Chen, you said their deaths haunt you, but have you ever asked what they would want? Don't, Maya warned, her voice dangerous. Don't use them to manipulate me. I'm not manipulating. I'm telling you what I know. He opened the folder to service records. Marcus Webb volunteered for that extraction. He wasn't on the duty roster that night. When the alert came in, he was at the gym. He heard it was a compromised asset in a Taliban village, and he literally ran to the operations center still in his PT gear and demanded to be on the team. Maya's throat constricted. Robert Chen had a choice between staying with the Rangers or trying out for Delta. He chose Delta because, in his words, someone has to do the hardest jobs. These men didn't die because of you, Maya. They died doing exactly what they'd trained to do, what they'd chosen to do. That doesn't make it hurt less, Maya whispered. No, but it should change what you do with that pain. Hartley closed the folder. Webb's daughter, Emily, she's 15 now. Straight-A student, wants to be a doctor. Chen's son, Marcus, yes, Robert named him after Webb, is 13. Honor student, plays baseball. These kids lost their fathers, but they're thriving because their father's sacrifice meant something. He pulled out one more photo. Emily Webb, older now, wearing her father's dog tags and smiling at a school event. If Mansour succeeds, how many Emilys will there be? How many children losing parents, except this time the sacrifice won't stop anything, won't save anyone. Maya took the photo with trembling hands. Emily had her father's eyes, the same determined expression Maya had seen in the casualty report photo. A girl who'd grown up in the shadow of loss but hadn't let it break her. I need to visit them, Maya said suddenly. Webb and Chen, before I decide I need to see them. Arlington, Hartley asked. Yes. I can arrange transport. There's a military flight heading to Andrews tomorrow morning. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She left Hartley's office with Emily's photo in her pocket, and a decision crystallizing in her chest like ice forming on a winter lake, inevitable, irreversible, cold. That night she told David she needed to go to Washington for a few days. She didn't say why. He didn't ask. The chasm between them had widened to something vast and uncrossable. They ate dinner in silence, slept on opposite sides of the bed, and in the morning he drove her to the base without a word. At the departure gate, David finally spoke. If you don't come back from wherever you're really going, I need you to know something. Maya waited, her heart breaking. I love you. I've loved you since that stupid joke about rivets, and I'll hate you for leaving, but I'll never stop loving you. His eyes were red. That's the worst part. I can't even be angry enough to make this easier. Maya kissed him, tasting salt from tears, his or hers she couldn't tell. I'm not gone yet, she whispered, though they both knew it was another lie. The flight to Washington felt like traveling through a dream. Maya stared out the window at clouds and thought about nothing, felt nothing, became nothing. The protective numbness she'd learned in therapy was settling over her like armor. Arlington National Cemetery was exactly as she remembered, rolling hills of white headstones, trees standing sentinel, the quiet dignity of sacrifice made permanent. She found them easily. Section 60. Row D graves 47 and 48. Sergeant First Class Marcus Webb, Master Sergeant Robert Chen, side by side just as they died. Maya knelt between them, her hand resting on Chen's headstone. The marble was warm from the sun. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I lived and you didn't. Sorry your kids grew up without you. Sorry I've been hiding instead of making your sacrifice mean something." The cemetery was silent except for distant traffic and birdsong. No answers came from the dead. But kneeling there, feeling the weight of 6 years of guilt and grief, Maya understood what she had to do. She couldn't bring Webb and Chen back, couldn't undo the past, but she could honor their choice by making her own choice, not out of obligation or manipulation, but because it was right. Maya pulled out her phone and dialed Hartley's number. He answered on the first ring. "Maya." "I'm in," she said, her voice steady for the first time in days. "Tell the CIA to prep the insertion. Tell your asset in Quetta to expect me. Tell whoever needs to know that Miriam is coming back." "Are you sure?" "No," Maya admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." She ended the call and stood, looking down at the graves one final time. "I'll try to come back," she promised the dead. "But if I don't, make sure they put me somewhere I can see the sunrise. Webb, you'd like that." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, carrying away her words and her last chance at normal. Maya Rodriguez walked out of Arlington National Cemetery, and with every step, Miriam grew stronger, more real, more inevitable. The ghost was no longer sleeping. It was time to hunt. The flight back to Arizona felt like crossing a border between two lives. Maya stared at her reflection in the airplane window, a woman caught between identities, between the mechanic who fixed A-10s and the operative who'd walked into hell wearing someone else's skin. By the time the wheels touched down at Tucson, she'd made peace with what came next. Peace wasn't acceptance. It was simply the absence of resistance. David was waiting at their apartment, and the moment she walked through the door, he knew. He'd always been able to read her, even when she was lying. "You told them yes," he said, "not a question, an obituary for their future." "I did." Maya set down her bag. "I leave in 2 weeks for initial staging. The mission timeline is 3 to 4 months total." 3 to 4 months, David laughed, the sound hollow and broken. "That's past our wedding date, past the life we planned." "I know." "Do you?" He stood, and Maya saw he hadn't slept either. His eyes were shadowed, his face drawn. "Do you understand what you're asking me to do? To just wait here, not knowing if you're alive or dead, while you play spy in some Taliban compound?" "I'm not asking you to wait," Maya said quietly. "I have no right to ask that." The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "If you want to leave, I understand. If you want to cancel the wedding, tell people I had a mental breakdown, whatever story makes it easier. I understand." Maya's voice remained steady even as her heart shattered. "You didn't sign up for this. You fell in love with Maya Rodriguez, aircraft mechanic, not with whatever I'm about to become." David crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed her shoulders. "Don't you dare make this decision for me. Don't you dare give me permission to abandon you. I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection. I need you to come home." His grip tightened. "I need you to marry me and have boring arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes and grow old together. But if you're determined to do this insane thing, then I'm determined to be here when you get back." "David." "No, listen to me." His voice cracked. "I love you, the real you, the woman who wakes up screaming but refuses to give up. The woman who carries guilt like armor but still shows up every day. The woman who's about to do something terrifying because it's right." Tears streamed down his face. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to do this mission, and I'm going to wait. And when you come back, not if we're getting married, even if it's in a hospital chapel, even if you come back broken. We're getting married." Maya collapsed into him, her carefully constructed composure finally breaking. They sank to the floor together, holding each other while she sobbed against his chest, 6 years of pain, fear, and loss pouring out in waves. "I'm so scared," she whispered. "I'm so scared of becoming her again." "Then don't." David pulled back, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Don't become Miriam, stay Maya. Just Maya wearing a different costume, playing a role. But you, the real you, you come back to me." It was beautiful advice. It was also impossible, but Maya nodded anyway, letting him believe it could be that simple. She disappeared 3 days later on an official medical leave. Her flight crew was told she needed surgery for a recurring shoulder injury, close enough to the truth that the lie tasted familiar. Only Colonel Hartley knew where she really went. The training facility didn't exist on any map. Somewhere in rural Virginia, hidden among rolling hills and thick forest, a complex of nondescript buildings housed some of the most dangerous training in the world. Maya arrived at midnight and was immediately processed. New identity documents, updated biometrics, a cover story so detailed it had its own credit history. Her instructor was a woman who introduced herself only as Kira. Former CIA paramilitary, face like carved stone, eyes that had seen things that would break most people. She was 50, maybe, with gray streaking through her black hair and scars on her hands that spoke of close-quarters combat. 3 weeks, Kira said during their first meeting. 3 weeks to remember skills you've tried to forget and learn new ones that might keep you alive. Are you ready? No, Maya answered honestly. Good, ready people get cocky, cocky people die. Kira pulled out a training schedule that made Maya's stomach sink. We start at 500 tomorrow. Physical conditioning, weapons refresher, hand-to-hand combat, surveillance techniques, and cultural immersion. You'll speak nothing but Pashto from this moment forward. You'll eat Afghan food, dress in Afghan clothes, and live as Mariam every waking moment. The transformation was brutal. Maya's body, soft from 3 years of maintenance work, was pushed to its limits. She ran until she vomited, fought until her knuckles bled, practiced assembling and disassembling weapons until she could do it blindfolded. Every muscle screamed, every bone ached. But slowly, the operative she'd been began emerging from the mechanic she'd become. The cultural immersion was harder than the physical training. Maya had to reconnect with parts of herself she'd severed. The language came back quickly, muscle memory of the tongue and throat. But embodying Mariam again, becoming the woman who could move through Afghan society invisible and unremarkable, required excavating memories she'd buried. Kira brought in Afghan women to test her. They spoke in rapid Pashto about domestic life, religious practices, social hierarchies. Maya had to respond naturally, automatically, without the hesitation that would mark her as foreign. One mistake, one awkward phrase, and Kira would make her start over. Your Pashto is perfect, Kira observed during week 2. But you're thinking in English and translating. That pause will kill you. You need to become Pashto, dream in it, pray in it if you pray. So Maya did. She immersed herself so completely that by week 3, she caught herself thinking in Pashto even during breaks. English felt foreign in her mouth. When she video called David, brief, monitored conversations that revealed nothing, she had to consciously switch back to her native language. David noticed. You sound different, he said during their final call before she deployed. Distant. I'm still here, Maya lied. But she wasn't. Not really. Maya Rodriguez was fatting, becoming a character Mariam played when necessary. The woman who loved David, who fixed airplanes, who wanted a normal life. She was being packed away like equipment stored for later use. Maybe she'd be able to unpack her again when this was over. Maybe not. The final week focused on operational specifics, floor plans of Mansur's compound, guard rotations, emergency extraction procedures, dead drops, communication protocols. Maya memorized it all, her mind filing away details with the efficiency she'd thought lost. On her last night before deployment, Kira handed her a small box. Inside was a burqa, not the cheap costume version tourists bought, but authentic Afghan tailoring, worn soft from use. This belonged to an asset we lost in Kandahar, Kira said quietly. She was brave, like you. Wear it with honor. Maya held the fabric, feeling the weight of sacrifice woven into every thread. Somewhere, another woman had worn this, had walked into danger, had perhaps died in it. Now it was Maya's turn to carry that legacy. She looked at herself in the mirror one final time as Maya Rodriguez, engagement ring still on her finger, dog tags around her neck, tattoo visible on her arm. Then she removed the ring, placed it in an envelope addressed to David with a note that simply said, "Hold this for me," and began dressing as Miriam. The woman who looked back from the mirror was a stranger, dark eyes lined with kohl, hair covered, body hidden beneath layers of modest clothing, a widow from Helmand province displaced by war, looking for work in Quetta. Miriam smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Let's go hunting," she whispered in perfect Pashto. The ghost was fully awake now, and she had unfinished business with a bomb maker who thought he'd killed her 6 years ago. Khalid Mansour was about to learn that some ghosts don't stay buried. The Quetta safe house smelled like cardboard and fear. Miriam now sat on a thin mattress, listening to the call to prayer echo across the city. October in Pakistan meant cooler temperatures but no less tension. Outside these walls, the city teemed with life, with ISI intelligence officers, with Taliban operatives, with people who would kill her without hesitation if they knew what she was. Her contact, the woman Hartley had mentioned, arrived at dawn. Shabnam was 60, weathered by decades of navigating Pakistan's dangerous underbelly, running her employment service as cover for CIA operations. She looked Miriam up and down with the critical eye of someone evaluating livestock. "You'll do," Shabnam said in Pashto, "but remember, you're a widow desperate for work. Humble, quiet. Mansour's household manager is paranoid. Any sign of education or sophistication and she'll reject you." "I understand," Miriam replied, her Pashto flawless, her accent matching Helmand province perfectly. 3 days later she was approved. Just like that, Miriam entered Khalid Mansour's world. The compound was larger than the surveillance photos had suggested. High walls topped with broken glass. 2 checkpoints. Armed guards with AK-47s who barely looked at the burqa-clad women passing through. Women were beneath notice, invisible in their modesty. It was exactly what Miriam had counted on. Inside, the household staff worked in a separate wing. 8 women, rotating every 2 weeks, cooking, cleaning, washing clothes. They weren't allowed in Mansour's private quarters, weren't allowed to speak to the male guards, weren't allowed to exist beyond their function. The household manager, Layla, was a hard woman with suspicious eyes. "You'll scrub floors, wash dishes, and keep your mouth shut," she told Miriam. "The master values cleanliness and silence. Give him both." For the first week, Miriam did exactly that. She scrubbed floors until her hands cracked. She washed dishes in water so hot it burned. She kept her head down and her ears open. The other women gossiped about their families, their villages, their hopes. Miriam joined in carefully, sharing false stories about her dead husband, her displacement, her desperate need for work. But at night, alone in the servants' quarters, she would slip a tiny camera from its hiding place sewn into her clothing and photograph everything: guard rotations, floor plans, overheard conversations. She documented which rooms had lights burning late, which vehicles came and went, which visitors warranted extra security. And then on day 9 she saw him. Khalid Mansour emerged from his private wing flanked by guards. He was older than the 2013 photos, grayer, but the scar down his face was unmistakable. Miriam froze, her hands deep in dishwater, watching through lowered eyes as the man responsible for Webb and Chen's deaths walked past her. He didn't even glance her way. To him she was furniture, invisible, already dead. Good, Miriam thought coldly, stay blind. The breakthrough came on day 14, her last scheduled day before rotation. Mansour held a meeting in the garden, unusual, as most business was conducted inside. Miriam was assigned to serve tea, a role that made her pulse race. This close, she would be this close. She carried the tea service with trembling hands, keeping her eyes down as she poured for Mansour and 3 other men. They spoke in rapid Pashto, assuming the servant woman couldn't understand or didn't matter. "The charges are ready," one man said. "Kabul, Islamabad, New Delhi, all positioned." And the timing. Mansur's voice was raspy from years of inhaling chemical fumes. "November 23rd. The embassies will be fully staffed, maximum casualties." November 23rd. 3 weeks away. Miriam's hand shook, rattling the teacup. One of the men glanced at her sharply. "Clumsy woman," he muttered. "My apologies, Sahib," Miriam whispered, bowing her head, playing the frightened servant perfectly while her mind screamed the date over and over. She had to get this information out, had to warn them. That night she slipped to the dead drop location, a loose brick in the compound's outer wall, checked daily by CIA assets. She left a message in microscopic writing on cigarette paper. Timeline confirmed. NOV 23, 3 TARGETS, CHARGES in place. The next morning her rotation was supposed to end. Shabnam would collect her, and she'd disappear back into the intelligence network. Mission accomplished. But nothing ever went according to plan. The alarm went up at dawn, shouting, running feet, guards flooding the compound. Miriam was dragged from the servants' quarters along with the other women, thrown to their knees in the courtyard. Mansur stood before them, face twisted with rage, holding something in his hand. The cigarette paper, her message. "There is a spy among you," he said softly, and that softness was more terrifying than screaming. "Someone has been feeding information to the Americans." The women wailed protests. Miriam joined them, crying, swearing innocence in perfect Pashto, but Mansur was methodical. He had the guards search each woman thoroughly. When they reached Miriam, they found the camera. Time slowed. The guard held up the device. Mansur's eyes locked onto Miriam's. Recognition flickered, not of her face but of betrayal. "You," he whispered, "who sent you?" Miriam didn't answer. Instead, she moved. Training took over. The muscle memory Kira had drilled into her. She grabbed the guard's rifle, twisted it from his grip, and fired 3 shots. 2 guards down. Chaos erupted. She ran, abandoning pretense, shouting into the subdermal radio implanted behind her ear. "Nightingale COMPROMICD. Emergency extraction. Now." Bullets chewed through the courtyard. The other women scattered, screaming. Miriam vaulted over a wall, landed hard, kept running. Behind her, Mansur was shouting orders. Ahead, the compound's outer wall loomed 30 feet high. She'd memorized an escape route, a service ladder used by maintenance workers. She reached it, started climbing, bullets sparking off metal around her. Nearly there. Nearly. The bullet hit her left shoulder, spinning her sideways. She screamed, grip failing, falling. Her hand caught a rung. One-handed, shoulder screaming agony, she pulled herself up. Blood soaked her clothing. The world tilted, grayed at the edges, but she climbed. Over the wall, dropped to the street. Stumble run through early morning markets. People stared at the blood-soaked woman. Behind her, Mansur's guards were coming. The extraction point was 6 blocks away. She'd never make it. Blood loss made her vision swim. She ducked into an alley, pressing against her shoulder wound, leaving crimson handprints on the wall. Her radio crackled. "Nightingale, we have your location, 2 minutes out. Can you make it to the secondary extraction point?" "Negative," Miriam gasped. Can't run anymore." "Then we're coming to you, hold on." She heard vehicles, shouting. Couldn't tell if they were friend or enemy. Couldn't tell if David would get that envelope with her ring. Couldn't tell if. Hands grabbed her, American voices. "We've got you, move, move, move." She was thrown into a vehicle. Gunfire erupted, her team returning fire, tires squealing. Then they were moving, racing through Quetta's streets toward the Pakistani-Afghan border and safety. "Stay with us," someone said, pressing gauze to her shoulder. "You did it. We got the intel. November 23rd, we can stop them." Miriam's vision darkened. Her last thought before unconsciousness claimed her was of David, waiting in Arizona, holding a future that suddenly seemed possible again. "Tell him," she whispered, "tell him I'm coming home." Then the darkness took her, merciful and complete. Maya woke in a military hospital in Germany, the same facility where countless wounded warriors had opened their eyes to fluorescent lights and sterile walls. Her shoulder was immobilized, wrapped in bandages that smelled of antiseptic and second chances. An IV dripped clear fluid into her arm. Somewhere nearby, a heart monitor beeped steadily, counting time she shouldn't have had. "Welcome back," a voice said. Colonel Hartley sat in a chair beside her bed, looking older than he had a month ago. His uniform was rumpled, like he'd been sitting there for hours. "Did we?" Maya's throat was raw from the breathing tube they'd removed. "Did we stop them?" Hartley's face split into a weary smile. "November 23rd came and went without incident. Your intelligence gave us everything we needed. Delta Force hit 3 separate locations simultaneously: Kabul, Islamabad, New Delhi. They seized the shaped charges, arrested 23 operatives, and prevented what would have been the deadliest coordinated attack since 9/11. Maya closed her eyes, relief flooding through her like morphine. "Mansur. Arrested by Pakistani authorities 2 days after your extraction. The evidence you gathered, photographs, recordings, the cigarette paper message, it was enough to force Pakistan's hand. They couldn't ignore it without admitting complicity." Hartley leaned forward. "He's in a black site now. He'll never see daylight again." "Good." The word came out flat, final. Maya had no energy for satisfaction, only exhaustion. "How long have I been here?" 5 days. The bullet shattered your clavicle, nicked your subclavian artery. You nearly bled out in the extraction vehicle. Hartley's voice roughened. "The medic said another 3 minutes and you'd have been gone." 3 minutes. The difference between coming home and becoming another name on a memorial wall, between keeping promises and breaking hearts. "Does David know?" "He knows you're alive, that's all he knows. We told him you were in a training accident, that you'd call when you could." Hartley pulled out Maya's phone, the one she'd left behind when she deployed. "He's called 47 times, left 23 voicemails. The last one came in this morning." Maya took the phone with her good hand, her thumb hovering over the voicemail button. But she couldn't. Not yet. She wasn't ready to hear the pain in his voice, the fear, the desperate hope. "There's something else," Hartley said. He pulled out a folder, not classified this time, just a simple manila envelope. Inside were photos. Emily Webb, Marcus Chen, both standing with their mothers at a private ceremony Maya hadn't been told about. After the operation was declared successful, the CIA briefed the families. They couldn't tell them everything, but they told them enough. That their father's sacrifice in 2013 had made this operation possible. That the intelligence gathered back then, purchased with their blood, had just saved thousands of lives. Hartley's voice cracked. "Emily asked me to give you this." He handed Maya a letter, handwritten on lined notebook paper. The writing was young but careful, each word chosen with purpose. "Dear Maya, or Miriam, I don't know what to call you. Colonel Hartley told me you were the person my dad died protecting. For a long time I was angry at you for that. I used to think if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't needed saving, my dad would still be alive. But now I'm 15 and I understand better. My dad chose to go. He volunteered. Colonel Hartley showed me his service record and I saw how many times he volunteered for dangerous missions. That was who he was, a protector. Thank you for making his death mean something. Thank you for going back when you didn't have to. My mom says that takes a different kind of courage than my dad had. She says it takes courage to survive. I hope you come home safe. I hope you get to have the life my dad wanted for me, peaceful, happy, normal. Your friend, Emily Webb. P.S. Mom says we can meet someday if you want. No pressure." Maya's vision blurred. Tears ran hot down her cheeks, soaking into the hospital pillow. 6 years of guilt, 6 years of carrying Webb and Chen's deaths like stones in her chest, and here was absolution written in a teenager's careful handwriting. "I want to meet her," Maya whispered. "When I'm ready, I want to tell her about her father, the real stories, not the sanitized versions." "I'll arrange it," Hartley promised. 2 weeks later, Maya stepped off a military transport at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Her left arm was in a sling, her shoulder healing slowly but steadily. The Arizona sun hit her face like a benediction, familiar and warm and home. David was waiting at the edge of the tarmac. He looked thinner, worn, like he'd aged years in the months she'd been gone. But when he saw her, his face transformed, relief and love and anger and joy all fighting for dominance. He ran to her, then stopped a few feet away, as if afraid she might disappear if he touched her. "Hi," Maya said stupidly. "Hi," David echoed, "then you came back." "I promised." He closed the distance and kissed her, careful of her injured shoulder, one hand cupping her face like she was made of glass. "I'm so angry at you," he whispered against her lips. "So angry, but I'm more relieved. We'll deal with angry later." "I love you," Maya said, and meant it with every scarred, broken, healing piece of herself. "I know." David pulled back, reaching into his pocket. Her engagement ring glinted in the sunlight. "Ready to make this official, or do you need to save the world again first?" Maya laughed, actually laughed, the sound rusty but real. "I'm done saving the world. Someone else's turn." He slipped the ring back on her finger, and something in Maya's chest that had been clenched tight for months finally relaxed. They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony at the base chapel. Colonel Hartley attended. Emily Webb and her mother came, driving from Colorado. Marcus Chen's mother sent flowers and a note that made Maya cry. It wasn't the wedding they'd originally planned. It was smaller, quieter, marked by scars visible and invisible. But it was real. Maya returned to work on the flight line, back to fixing A-10s and getting grease under her fingernails. But she'd made one change. She added to her tattoo. Beside the coordinates of Webb and Chen's deaths, she added new coordinates, the location of the Quetta compound where she'd been shot, where she'd chosen to come back, where Miriam and Maya had finally learned to coexist. And woven through it all, a small addition in Pashto that only she could read. "The compass always points home." Senior Airman Jackson found her under an A-10 one afternoon, wrench in hand, humming softly. "You seem different," he observed. "I don't know, lighter maybe." Maya smiled, thinking of David waiting at home, of Emily's letter in her desk drawer, of Mansour in a cell where he could hurt no one. "Just happy to be here," she said. "Happy to be doing simple work." That night she and David sat on their balcony watching A-10s return from training runs, the distinctive sound of their engines a familiar lullaby. Her shoulder ached when it rained now, a permanent reminder. The nightmares hadn't disappeared entirely, but they came less often, and when they did, David was there. "Any regrets?" David asked, his arm around her good shoulder. Maya thought about it honestly. About the fear, the pain, the cost. About Webb and Chen, about Fatima and the women in that village. About the person she'd had to become and the scars she'd carry forever. "No," she said finally. "Not about going. Maybe about how long it took me to go." She leaned into him. "But I'm done now, really done. My fighting days are over." "Promise." "Promise." Above them, the Arizona sky turned purple and gold. The same sky that stretched over Arlington where heroes slept, over Pakistan where ghosts had been laid to rest, over all the places Maya had been, and all the places she'd never go again. She was home, broken in some places, healed in others, but home. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. The end.